Yeah, I want to talk about the digital media data nucleus. It's basically just a fancy acronym because that always helps to facilitate the internal sell-in as well. And what it's about is, of course, it's also, of course, with marketing, we know that there are more and more channels. Consumers are diverting to all kinds of media channels, more social media channels, digital platforms. There's increasing number of retail media for different brands. But of course, also on the traditional side, there's more coming then. But to getting this all together and getting aggregated to really to the business results, that's really one of the challenge. But also when I, of course, more a couple of years now, or for many years now in marketing, it used to be really like the creative team, and when it came to reporting, it was more or less, okay, let's pick like the largest number we could find and put it on a large slide and make this, call it a success. But things are changing. We know that also marketing, like any department, has to be really accountable for their spending. But talking about really like the increasing number of different data sources in areas where we can get information and data, that makes it really is part of the key challenge, because one of these systems, or all of these systems, especially if we have a diverse set of MarTech, EdTech, and other technologies internally that are set up by IT, sometimes the departments are coming in, sometimes it's a partner or an agency who is bringing a certain technology on board. But these systems, if they're not coming from all one vendor, even if it's just all Salesforce, all Adobe, all another platform, they're not always like intended to work together, because even if it's like a marketing or an enterprise solution, sometimes, of course, like Google or other platforms are doing it. They are integrating startups from different areas. So that's one of the challenges there. But in the end, of course, getting back to like a nice quote from a couple of years back, when no one was thinking about data lakes, data warehouses, and all the other areas. But really, it's the capital mistake to theorize before one has data. And certainly, the author for Sherlock Holmes wasn't thinking about really like all the digital side. But it's still, of course, the part that you should not start before you really analyze the facts, maybe as you can put it. But it also puts, of course, that it, as is not meant as a digital quote here, it shows that at the core of the problem that we try to solve here for marketing, it was not really around like we don't have the right technology, we don't have the right databases or the right insights tool to work with, but to understand there is a problem around inventory and access. Not all data sources that are valuable and that could be helpful are actually accessible. Sometimes they are with a vendor, sometimes there's a contractual or there's another area or problem to actually get to it, or sometimes we don't actually know where data for a certain report or for a KPI is coming from. Second part is then what I call state of the data literacy, which means, of course, like for many years, everyone, at least at our teams and in our organization, but in many organizations, would go, yes, we want to do data-driven, we want to be data-driven, but what is actually understood under this, I think if you ask them all, what do you mean by data-driven? Many people, many stakeholders will give you a different explanation and understanding of what they see there. So get the organization also to a higher level or increased level of really understanding what we mean with data, I think is an important part to help to understand the problem and to also to take the responsibilities that they have in their area to work with data. I think GDPR probably was doing many organizations quite a helpful boost to get, really like to get the responsibility, because if there's a looming fee or fine from local or even European institutions to fine you with millions because if you don't handle consumer or private data in a responsible way, then of course, you get the attention of many internal stakeholders to take some steps. But basically, it applies to all areas where we work with data, not only in marketing, but in other areas as well, because it has a certain value to be accountable for what you do, to make the right decisions, to improve efficiency, effectiveness of different measures and activities that we have. So it should be not only by like the external pressure for privacy data, but actually for all areas where we work with data. But also then, and that certainly requires to have the right data governance and quality controls in place, similar as we do for, of course, Pepsi. We do a lot of drinks, snacks, and other areas. And once I learned what is all done to secure, of course, all the quality and testing that every can almost tastes the same, that all crisps, all Lay's crisps are, of course, to the right quality that we need. If we would put the same process already on the data quality that we seek or that we need for many areas, that would be certainly beneficial. But we are not there. There are other areas who have these kind of quality controls, but when it comes to data, I think the level is not to the right degree that is needed, or that it could be definitely helpful to get to this step. And this is how it actually, what I already talked at the beginning, what it could look like. And that certainly applies not only for marketing, but for other areas. They are increasing for e-commerce, for customer data, for consumer data acquisition, to manage all this data. Then you have all the different activation channels from Google. Amazon as then a mix. You can both do ads. You can do, of course, you can do e-commerce sales. You can increase things. Then you have like Nielsen. You have consumer. You have panel data. You can put various data sources, and then they come all in different levels of quality. There are some vendors who even already have a business model. If you only have like a standard application or standard subscription, you might get a normal, already aggregated, low-level data fee. You might not have access to an API to directly pull the data into your system if you want and can do that already. So there are multiple levels of low data quality that you can, or that you need to, that you have to challenge with. And then you get to the point that there's limited data access. If you want it all into one spreadsheet, all into one data lake, one warehouse, or wherever you want, you might need it for then to actually give it to the right stakeholders that should benefit from that. You're facing another challenge. How can you transfer it? Because certainly any kind of manual process, sending things via email, just uploading things via FTP or something else, has all challenges to get it to the right platform. And before you then really have it in your Power BI or in your Tableau or in Looker Data Studio, that's then probably the third part of actually transforming and getting the data into the right place to make the right decisions that should be helpful for you. And clearly there are, you might not give, or we are not like in the place where we have like the perfect data set up and stack how to manage this all, but it's clearly to understand that it has impact on the top line, that you are underperforming, that you might not provide the right information to your targeting algorithms to really like cluster and segment leads that you have to understand what are their interests. We all want to be consumer-centric, personalized for advertisement, to not like broadly broadcast just information about products to them. But if we don't have the granular and right insights to them, we might lose impact already on the top line. But also on the bottom line, we are losing because we are simply wasting model. I cannot say the word here, but we might just advertise to people who only drink the red cola. And this is a totally waste of money if we could know or understand that these cola drinkers are not the right audience for us. So there's a potential, of course, to understand that there is waste in the overall process. But also, if you just simply think about, there's been the time that we need to get to the right information, how much time probably is wasted to just process and get the data, how many people have to touch a certain metric before it's validated and used someone. Time is, of course, also then adding to the inefficiency, because it might be sometimes that the opportunity to act on a certain insight that we're getting, for example, we are targeting basically the wrong chips buyer or crisp buyer or the wrong beverages drinker, the time might have already passed, the money has been spent. You might consider, okay, next time we do it better. But basically the ambition should be to understand it in real time, act in real time, and then do the right decision to overall, don't make the mistakes or do less mistakes and act faster on them. But for all things, and now for many years in digital marketing, there is always probably, I'm not sure if there's like the area who's most guilty of following the latest hype around the latest technology, if it's about augmented reality or whatever buzzword is around in the marketing space each year, which often then loses track within the organization. Actually, who are the users of these new implications? Do I need this new CRM, CDP, or whatever is the acronym that everybody is chasing? But actually really to start from the also for an internal process like this, to start from the user perspective. Who are the people I want to empower or I want to help to do something better? It starts with the central marketing or senior leadership would definitely have a more interest on an aggregated view. They want to know their top line, quarterly, monthly, high-level KPIs that directly link to their business results that they are following. And this is what they do. They just need an overview. Then you have the work, of course, with the external, internal IT partners. They want to know what is the ownership, how is the structure, how do I work with this, and also how all the pipelines can be managed for that. And then probably on the opposite side, more and more, of course, as you get more data into the organization and also utilized within your marketing, lead generation, activation process, you see increasing need to work with analytics people, with data engineers who make use of this, who want really most granular, very well processed, structured data to do their own data engineering and understand and transform it so that they can produce the insight that might help you to improve in the future or on the go. And actually, they are defining the standards on how much granularity and how much data they need. And if you normally speak to the data engineering side of the process, there's always the need for the most granular and richest data insights they can possibly get, because this, as we might think about, help them to then enable the better or enable the algorithms that can probably then also make even faster decisions and scale certain processes if we can. And then, of course, there are the practitioners, the actual brand teams and marketing managers who want, of course, also real-time access. They want to know how their campaigns are running, how their consumers and how their campaigns are perceived, how they're performing, and if they need to do any kind of action to also achieve their set goals. But it all starts often to build this foundation with a rather boring or step-by-step process with discovering where are the assets, where is it coming from, how can I build it, then simply start to structure and standardize what is the optimal tech to do that, what type of data do I actually handle, what is coming from, for example, from a meta platform, what is coming from other platforms, to get an understanding. And then once I have probably sorted the first bits and pieces of the different solutions that I want, or different data sources that I want to tap into, I have to start to unify and assemble it. Are the campaigns always have the same name? Are different because I'm working, for example, with a creative team, I'm working with an external media or activation partner on a retail side or on a social media platform. If they don't have really clear structure and conventions how all this is named and structured, it gets, of course, then further down the process, it gets more and more complicated to organize and synchronize all the data that's coming from various not harmonious and not compatible data sources that we have. Once I get to this basic level, it comes to govern and reinforce, because I can do this one-off, structure one campaign and get it all done, but I then have to provide all the partners, all the platforms with a way, how can I automate it? Whenever there is a way that you have to manually insert all the names, the more I can automate and structure all these things, of course, then I have to reduce the error rate of how these are actually then set up. There are platforms to specifically just look at the data taxonomy and the structure, to run again, have some algorithms to run across it, check for errors, give you insights, what are the root causes of the errors, and then repeat the process and try to reduce the error rate. As it is constantly evolving, platforms are evolving, the input of the data is evolving, we might never get to a process where everything is 100% perfect, but in the same way, we need to have a process that is constantly or continuously trying to improve the way how data is getting processed further down the pipeline. And then at the last point, I actually get to the part where I can start to export the one really precise aggregated KPI that is for a senior stakeholder in the organization, as well as providing a rich data set for a team of engineers to do common analysis to provide us with a certain insight who might really now the right consumer segment to reach out, for example, for the next Champions League UCL campaign, because they're both interested in eating chips and as well watching football. But this is, of course, also changing how consumers are behaving. So this is then the last step to really then enable and activate all the information that I have. Yeah, this is a practical example. You can see, we're getting it's the same campaign. You see the names, Lay's as the chips brand, but there are 3 different ways. Sometimes it's Lay's, then it's Lay's, and as well it can be seconds or seconds. If you don't have a system, if you just with a normal way to structure it, it will be aggregated at 3 different spend levels, and there are 3 different kind of clicks and different, of course, then also click-through rates. If you don't have a way to synchronize and harmonize it and aggregate it, aggregate it to actually all to the same campaign, all to the same spend level. To avoid these errors. And if you now think that maybe a campaign, they are already, you have it on daily level, you have multiple ways, you can amount it to thousands of lines before we synchronizing it all into one understanding what is actually the spend on this certain Lay's campaign, and what is the click-through level, and what is my cost per reaching all the right audiences that I have in mind. To maybe make a small slow down with another break. If man knows not which port he sails, no one is favorable. It's already also from ancient times, but it still says us, if we don't know where we actually want to go, and if we don't can plot the right course where we're heading, I think then it's just looking for trying to avoiding the rocks, trying to avoid the shores, and may think, oh, maybe this looks nice or this looks nice, but actually not have really a precise way. In modern terms, you could say, if I don't have the right information and the right way I want to go, I cannot say this, I want to go there, and then have probably the data and use it to come up with predictive insights, give me an idea. If you change this or that, you might actually get there. Because I think this is the power of, from Power BI, Tableau, where you can use predictive insights, even prescriptive insights, when the data set can even tell you what you actually should change. You don't have to lose the KPIs and think and understand what you could do, but you already get a full set of maybe recommendations, what could get you to the desired outcome, but you need to have an idea where you actually want to go. The process that we ended here to then define in more practical terms was really start to define and validate the data sources. Okay, this is where I want to go. How do I get access to all of them? How do I transform it or twist it? Then ingest it actually to the platform where I want to start harmonizing, transforming all the data. Then again, do the mentioned structure and cleans process so that all the namings, taxonomy is synchronized, harmonized between the different data sources. Important point there is, of course, is also then how can I join the data? How can I aggregate? Maybe it's always the same brand, it's always from Facebook, or it's always from a different platform, or it's then always from the right from the right segment or from the right audience. Can I aggregate it to the right segment or consumer part that I want to have? Then secure and maintain the different sources. Try to find where are some vulnerabilities and ensure that the standardization of the data set is sustained and can be repeated, of course, through the process, because you cannot do this if you want to do it at scale. If you want to do it fast, you need systems to do it mostly automated, to only have or to over time, of course, reduce the manual effort to have the way to from actually the data ingestion to activating it. That's another bit more structured way, but definitely the benefits. I mentioned it, of course, especially if you have consumer personal data as part of a marketing or sales activation process. You need to make sure that it's handled in a privacy safe way. I know, of course, there are always ways, or oh, we got first personal data, great, oh, send it to me. I know there have been so many cases before we like GDPR hit the organizations where, of course, personal data was sent via email, was stored in open Excel files. So of course, if you really want to use it for any kind of process, that's one of the key benefits. You have the longevity of the data. Still, if you want, can you compare, give me information, how was this campaign? We did something similar like 2 years ago. Can you give me the report? Do you know how that went? How do you know how the last football campaign? If this already is a huge effort, I don't know where this is. Or maybe the person who did this campaign last time already left the organization, moved to a different department. You don't get there. You are much slower, or you probably even prohibited to access these kind of information. So the longevity to still have fast access to historic information. But also it's adding flexibility. Maybe you're having defined your key or your KPIs a while back, but you understand, maybe something has changed. Maybe we are now stop from acquiring new consumers to maintaining our segments in a certain way. And that, of course, changes the KPIs that are important. Maybe efficiency of reach becomes more important instead of people having them really engaged and putting them faster down any kind of funnel. But if you don't have the flexibility in the data to remodel and understand and maybe get different KPIs of the data sets later or at a different point, you don't have the way to do that in a later stage. And then, last part is the the visibility. If you have it in a data warehouse stored and linked to your visualization solution, then you always have a different way to look at it. Maybe understand what are some medians, to understand what are the benchmarks. You can do more flexibility in terms of the calculations and analytics that you can potentially run. To make it a bit more tangible, actually, what we went with for terms of solutions, not precisely saying why, but it's just an example of key data sources. There's Google Analytics, of course, tells us where is the consumer engagement part of owned media, how consumers are engaging with a website or with an app. You have the campaign manager who's tracking across multiple paid activations, how we're reaching them, getting them done. And DV360 is from Google, the programmatic platform, to then share ads on YouTube, display, mobile, Android, different set. So these are probably some key things to connect. They are natively integrated with the Google Cloud platform to get the data there. But if we then also want to combine it, for example, with Facebook or social media ads, they don't have this native integration. Of course, from Meta is not keen to have a native integration with the Google Cloud platform. So you need a interconnecting piece that avoids you to start, programming by manual or with your internal team, programming a connector to get maybe metadata into your cloud platform. But there, for example, you can have a partner like Adverity, who is specialized in creating connectors and transformation of data. They have both. They know the platforms where data is coming from. They know the destinations, the different warehouses, data lakes that are used by different organizations. And they have a connector, and they maintain these connectors in between, which again then speeds up the process, saves internal costs, and makes the whole process overall more reliable. Then one benefit of this process was that for visualizing and modeling, you have the internal tools already within the Google data stack, and then but of course then export them also back both to other Datorama, maybe more as a executive visualization and dashboard solutions, or you can push it back to also to an activation platform like the campaign manager, because you understand maybe we were wrong with a certain segment or audience that we wanted to reach. We have understood from the data which might be a more beneficial segment, and we're pushing that back to an activation platform as a usable data set for improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the campaign. And last but not least, thank you very much for listening to a lot of technical data insights. And if you have any questions, ask now or connect or ask later.